Hello and welcome to the show. So we are finally back in Forzamotorsport 4. We're having a few sort of capture card issues, but we're back anyway. This episode we are finding our top 10 best looking cars in Forza 4. Now we understand it will be a little bit controversial because people have different opinions, but these are our favourites.
At number 10 we have the Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Gullwing Coupe. Very striking car first off. It did make it just into the top 10 with a few other cars that we were deciding on, but this was our number 10. Its most striking party piece was the Gullwing doors, as what most people remember it for. They did make a convertible version, obviously without the Gullwing doors, but this is the one that everybody remembers. These cars are so sought after that even a half decent one going for £250,000. If you want a fully restored one, you're looking at over £500,000.
At number 9 we have the Lamborghini Miura, and quite how Lamborghini go from making tractors to making, well, this I believe it's the first proper mid-engine rear-wheel drive supercar, I don't know. It's pretty much one of the best looking Lamborghinis there's ever been, but even with that it is Italian. It has some design flaws. For example, when it goes over 150 miles an hour the front starts lifting up, and it's probably not that much fun to drive when it's doing that. But still, you wouldn't care, you'd still drive it.
Now, number 8, from Lamborghinis to Lancias. Here we have the Lancia Stratos. Now, when you say Lancia Stratos, most people remember this car as being one of the greatest rally cars ever made. However, most people don't know they made 500 road-going versions of the rally car. Now, it was cramped, the driving position was rubbish, it was incredibly impractical, but nobody really cared. It looked good, it sounded good, and it drove amazing.
At number 7 we have the Shebly Daytona Coupe, one of my favourite cars of all time. This was built by Carroll Shelby. It was a sort of challenge to the Ferraris at Le Mans, and well, it's probably, well, it's the only real classic American race car, but it's definitely one of the best looking American cars ever made. Again, it wasn't really particularly practical on the road. It was horrendously hot and noisy and uncomfortable to drive, but it's just incredibly good looking. You can't really describe in words what this car looks like. And it was a very successful race car.
Now, we're going to go for a special mention here with the Citroen DS3. Now, obviously it doesn't really compete with the classic and supercars of what this video is supposed to be about, but we thought that this is just a really good, quirky little car that you see every day on the road.
I would also like to point out, I quite like the black and orange one. I think the DS3 Racing, I think it is. That's really, really cool. Unfortunately they don't have that in Forza, but yeah, it's just a sort of good everyday car, the sort of car you don't really think about that much, but when you see it on the road, you kind of think that, oh yeah, that's actually quite good looking.
Like I said, if I had the money, I would buy one.
So here is the controversial one. In at 6 is the 2013 Dodge Viper. It's actually not a Dodge, it's a Viper GTS. Now, both of us here really like this car, especially me. I'm a big fan of the Vipers.
We do,
and
yes we do.
The reason why we put this in the list quite so high up is that somehow it manages to remain looking like a Viper, remain looking like a muscle car, but also manage to be sort of modern and sleek. Quite how it's done it, I don't know. But yeah, even with the sort of garish Viper stripes, it's still a great looking car and easily one of my favourites.
At number 5 we're going back to Lamborghinis now, which is the Lamborghini Aventador. Now, I have two words for this car: fighter jet, because that's what it is. It's a fighter jet for the road. It is incredibly good looking. They've taken some ideas from the Lamborghini Reventon, but they've incorporated it to make it an amazing looking car. As you can see with the diffuser, it is just pushing the boundaries of what Lamborghini can do.
At number 4 we have the Aston Martin DB5. Now, most of you will recognise this car from the James Bond film. It was in Goldfinger, and it's probably the most iconic of all the James Bond cars. In real life, the DB5, there was only just over 1,000 made, which makes this car fairly rare and very well sought after. There is also a convertible model, and I believe there was a prototype for an estate model as well, but of course it's the coupe that everybody wants. Looking for a good one is going to be in the hundreds of thousands of pounds again for a car that's not really particularly fast. It's more of a grand tourer, but just looking at it you know why so many people want it.
Here we have another special mention, the Hyundai Genesis Coupe. Now we picked this car, we put this car in because roughly the same reasons as the Citroen DS3. The fact that it is a good looking car that you genuinely would see on the road. You know, okay, you see a Ferrari maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks. This you would see, if you were lucky, you'd see one every couple of days. And it is just a really nice car.
And you don't really associate Hyundai with making sort of particularly good looking cars. It kind of bucks the trend a bit.
No, you wouldn't, and you can see very in the back it has the Genesis sort of style in there, which again I like.
At number 3 we have the Ferrari 250 California. Now if you are a Top Gear fan you will probably have seen James May driving this very nervously around London, I think it was, because this is again one of the most sought after Ferraris. I think probably behind the 250 GTO. It's probably one of the most expensive. It's a brilliant looking car. It's a convertible as well, so you get some sort of open air touring about. They cost you an absolutely fortune. I can't remember how much the last one went for at auction, but yeah, they are incredibly rare, incredibly good looking, and it's an open top Ferrari. What more do you want?
At number 2 we have the Alfa Romeo 8C Competition. Now this list is comprised mostly of classic cars, but we thought that one of the more modern cars now, this is one of the greats. This is a really nice car. Alfa Romeo have always designed good cars. They have been probably the most passionate for designing a car, you know, making it look really nice. Maybe not the fastest, maybe not the most practical, but one of the best looking cars. And for me this is just one of the best looking modern day cars in the world. But our number 1, our favourite car, is the Jaguar E-type. This was made in Britain from 1961 to 1974 with various models and series produced, but this is probably the one that everybody wants. It is the V12 version. Didn't make very many of them. This was one of the last ones. You can see it's got the covered over headlamps, but this is just an incredibly good looking car. This is a really one of the best Grand Tourers, if not the best Grand Tourer ever made.
And pretty much when we were sort of discussing this idea, it was pretty much unanimous straight away what was going to win. You can't really argue with the Jaguar E-type.
This was going to win, definitely. There was no question about it. And it is just a really good Grand Tourer, and sought after. These cars are really good money. And in the words of Enzo Ferrari, the most beautiful car ever made.